My name is Ryan Mundy, and I am taking over the Mental Health Coalition Instagram Live today, and we'll be joined uh, by Rashad Jennings, and then also later on in the conversation, Bashea Williams, who is a mental health professional as well. But um, we're prepared to deliver some great and some realness for you as it relates to Black men, athletes, and mental health. Let me see if there goes Rashad. There he goes.
Here we go. What's up, my brother?
How you doing today, bro?
I'm good. I'm real good, actually. Too good.
Yeah, this is our third day in a row.
Yeah, that's the reason why I'm good.
This is our in a row. That is third time's a charm. I'm looking forward to diving in with you today. We've gotten some good reps over the last few days, and let's prepare to bring it home. I'm excited about this conversation. How you feeling this Friday?
Good, man. I'm in Florida at the moment.
Yeah.
I had to go visit a couple doctors, trying to get that line of duty. You know how that go. And then I go to Utah for some chill time for Memorial, just enjoying the nature. So.
Yep. Yeah, that's good stuff, man. I know exactly about that line of duty. Actually, I may want to touch on that a little bit, throughout our conversation. Looking back really briefly, we've been retired for quite some time, and that's a benefit that in theory would make sense that, I should have went after immediately. Mm-hmm. But I think I was a little bit paralyzed, because that's like the final stroke, if you will, and saying like, yo, man, you are done. And that would be interesting to peel back the layers. I know for me initially, at least on why it took so long to actually just go through that process.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough pill to swallow for sure.
It is, man, and it's counterintuitive to get your line of duty. You know how it is playing football. The last thing you want to do is tell somebody you're hurt or why you're hurt or what hurts, and they don't care, right?
Yeah.
But like hindsight, I wish now I would have went to the training room for every knick-knack I had.
Anything, documented all.
Yeah, because that's what you need to get your line of duty, and what that's the one thing that really disappoints me about the NFL. I talk about this very openly. They make it very difficult for people to earn their benefits. So they preach benefits are there for the players, but then they make you go through tooth and nail to even get a cent of the benefit. Yeah. What they promote to the public is definitely not what we're receiving the majority of the time. And even to the NFLPA, I think I don't think they do the best job either, with some of the benefits. But it is though. If you do go on your own, trust me, if you do as an athlete go on your own to seek the benefits with the NFLPA, they are there and they will help you, assist you. Now, granted, they can't hold everybody's hand, but I wish there was a system in play that was a check and balance and exit mandatory, like they make everything else mandatory.
Cool, man. Well, I want to set the stage for our conversation, and it seems like we got a good crew of folks in here now. So I'll start at the top. My name is Ryan Mundy, and I am an 8-year NFL veteran turned founder and entrepreneur. I am currently founder and CEO of Alchemy Health, and our mission at Alchemy Health is to become the universal healthcare provider for the Black community, and that mission is rooted in mental health. Our platform is launching in just a few short days now. And on our platform, you will find guided meditations, on-demand therapy modules, and live group therapy sessions. And I'm joined today by Rashad Jennings, who is also a veteran of the National Football League. I'll kick it over to him real quick so that he could properly introduce himself. But just want to let you guys know that we're joining here from the Mental Health Coalition today, and it's been truly an honor and a privilege to watch how this series of events have unfolded, because every single day in May there has been an athlete, a musician, a TV personality, an entrepreneur, or a thought leader, or somebody coming onto this platform and getting real about mental health and opening up. And that is truly powerful. And I know I could speak for myself and also those who will join the conversation today that it's truly an honor to be with you. So I'll kick it over to Rashad for a brief intro, and then we'll dive into our conversation.
I appreciate you having me on, man. Again, for those of you that may not know me, I'm Rashad Jennings. Played in the NFL for a total of 8 years, Jacksonville Jaguars, Oakland Raiders, and the Giants. That's where I retired. I always say that with a little emphasis. I had a fortunate opportunity to go on Dancing with the Stars. I like to say I didn't retire and walk away from the league. I retired and slid away from the league. I tricked America because I ended up winning Dancing with the Stars. So shout out to anybody that voted for me. I didn't win because of my own merit. It's because y'all voted me. I appreciate that dearly. And an author is something that I was able to dive into. And my first book was a New York Times bestseller titled The If in Life. If you haven't read it, go please pick it up. I really think it would impact you, really make you and force you to sit down with self and find those if moments. And enjoying myself, TV acting, hosting, commentating. I'm now studying to be a premarital marital counselor. That's something I've always wanted to do, and I kind of get to use my education more so than my physical body now. So, but and inside of that, in education and using my mind, mental health is something that has been on the forefront and been centerfold to talk about, and I'm definitely excited to have this conversation.
Awesome, man. We appreciate that, bro. Let's dive in. Everybody talks about the athlete plight and the journey into athletics. Very few know the details and the intimate details around that transition and just how difficult and real that is. Everybody thinks that the milk and honey, making all this big money, on TV, etc. But then all of a sudden the music stops. And it's like, okay, what do I do now? Like, how am I contributing value to the world? What is my purpose when I'm not running into somebody? How am I going to provide for my family? What fulfills me? There's a lot of big questions to answer. So I always like to, just dive in and talk about this topic. One that is really important and near and dear to my heart, and really was a catalyst for me driving or starting Alchemy Health. But let's kick off and talk about like that transition and what toll did it take on your mental health? What did you learn about yourself during that time? And looking back, what would you do differently?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. The transition is tough. Transitions are always the toughest. I even relate this in part to dance. Dancing is something that I really fell in love with. I wish I would have been introduced to it when I was younger. When I was younger, if somebody came up to me saying something about ballroom dance, one, I wouldn't have known what it was, but two, when you'd have told me about it, I would have thought the cliche, yeah, that's, that ain't for me. Man, I love it. I go to cities and cities, and it's a different language, and the art connects you with self and people. But one thing about dance is the transition of it. Doing one movement, you can learn back and forth, step forward, step back, step forward, step back. But then you have to transition to another move. The transition was the hardest part for me to get. But every time I got the transition of how to move from here to here, now do the same thing. Now move from here to here and do the same thing. Once I got the transition, the dance became easy because I knew the rest of the body. And so for me, and I'm sure you could relate to this, the body of work that it causes you to be successful in the National Football League requires discipline, requires teamwork, and so many attributes that are amazing that would and could make you an amazing businessman, husband, so many things. You just got to learn how to transition that.
Yep.
And now move all that energy somewhere else. And so that transition for me, having that, it caused a lot of work because I had to, one, not necessarily re-identify myself. I felt like I constantly was re-identifying myself and what I relate to. While I was in the National Football League, I almost was an outlier in the locker room sometimes because I was embedded in, business or the weird, goofy conversations that may not wanted to be had at a particular time at 23 years old. And so, but that transition caused me a lot of headache, a lot of heartache. I did have to look at myself in the mirror. I was trying to convince myself that I was good more than I was, and it took a deep awakening to be honest with myself for where I was struggling in order to really answer the problems. And so it's, and I would say I'm still transitioning. Now I'm transitioning more well than I was before, but it's when something you work for so long for is taken away from you, it makes you reevaluate.
Yeah, 100%. Those are all similar feelings that I had during my transition. And would also add to that, it's interesting to really think about as an athlete, and specifically if you're blessed and fortunate enough to make it to the professional ranks, you get really in tune with your body for the most part, and you could understand like, man, something's off here. Maybe the slightest little thing, but you know when something is off, and that's in this physical sense. But then you also know when there's something off mentally and internally and emotionally as well. Um, and through my experience, I just wasn't equipped to deal with that. I knew how to repair and fix my physical body, no problem. Did not know how to repair and fix my mental and my emotional body. And that's why I always tell people during my transition, I was doing all the right things externally. I was, taking advantage of educational opportunities, got my MBA while I was an active athlete, made the successful transition into business, etc. But emotionally behind the scenes, man, I was struggling just because I wasn't, I was dealing with anxiety from still trying to figure things out, navigating. I had the risk appetite and the endurance to keep going, but, that's hard when you just don't know and you're in a space of uncertainty. And then also like the depression of not doing something that I did the previous 24 years of my life. My whole world and ecosystem has been built around football.
Mm-hmm.
I went to school for free because of football. I've been all across this country because of football. Like I could draw a lot of lines. 99.9% of the lines of my life can be drawn back to football. When you're no longer doing that, it is such a massive blow and a big void to fill. But again, having that toolkit and emotional resources, looking back, that's something that I would have wished or told a younger Ryan Mundy, prepare the emotional body just like you're preparing a physical body.
Absolutely. That's key, man. Preparing your mental, just like you're doing. And needing and so we have tutors for that, right? I mean, excuse me, not tutors, but we have trainers to teach us how to train our body. We have chefs. We have all these items and positions and occupations that we lean on, and that's at our exposure, right? But when you're talking about training the mind, one of the things that I didn't correlate with as I do a trainer to my physical body, as a masseuse to my physical body, is a therapist to my mental.
Yeah.
Like that just, it's like, nah, you want to mentally grow. You just say, oh, I'm tough. Like who do you lean on for that? And,
Yeah.
I'm fortunate to have loving family, having my base, and who God is to hold me down. But like, I wish I would have had some other coaches along the way to sharpen this at an earlier age.
Yeah, for sure, man. And along those lines, I think too, what holds a lot of people back from, obviously we're talking a little bit about just like the educational gap. Like I just didn't know what I didn't know. But then there's
Hmm.
also some like stigmas or preconceived notions about just like caring for your mental health. Particularly, we talked about this the other day. Like we came up at a very interesting time, particularly in the locker
Yeah.
room. Conversations like this were not being had. I mean, social platforms like this weren't even around. That's how old we are. But that's a whole other story. But yeah,
It's crazy.
the conversations weren't being had, and so in your mind's eye, were there any misconceptions or stigmas that you had around mental health that now kind of being more proactive now that you realize that that line of thinking and those misconceptions just weren't right about caring for your mental health?
Yeah, the idea that you can just brush everything under the rug
Mm-hmm.
is kind of what it was. Like, we played an American gladiator sport, a modern day
Yeah.
American gladiator sport, if you will. And it's hard. It's a physical game. Yeah, there are arts and craft, how not to physically get involved in contact as much, of how to learn it properly, how to fall, when to lean your body, when to take your head out of a situation. Like you can lessen the blow and use shockers, but I mean, it's a physical game that we play. And so in order for me, like, if I was about to get in an altercation with somebody and it was about to get physical, the last thing I'm going to do is tell myself, "Ooh, you need to calm down and think about." No, hey, at the end of the day, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So like in football, growing up with that attitude all the time is unhealthy if you're taking it into life.
Mm.
Like, you know, and so that locker room mentality, or this idea of being a man mentality, wasn't taught. It was just something you see and you mimic.
Mm.
And so, you know, when you get to the point where you need the medicine yourself, or you need the substance yourself, you go about it a different way. So I would just say the stigma that I had to shy away from was the idea of what macho was.
Yep.
And it's harder to talk about your feelings than it is to not. And
Yep.
so when people say be tough mentally means be open. And that's something that I tell my little nephews a lot of times, like, that's tough. It's tough for a man to say, listen, I just need to holler at you. I ain't saying go on social media and tell everybody and cry all day. If you
Right.
need to, do it. But I'm saying, seriously, it's really tough for a guy to talk to another guy and say, listen, man, I'm struggling with this right now. Let me
Yep.
just holler at you.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think I'm definitely in the same boat, particularly around just like communicating how I'm feeling, what I'm thinking. Um, there's a element particularly that's developed, and it kind of goes around like what we were trained to do, and this whole notion around like documenting your injuries, right? Like, it was taboo to say like, look, man, I'm hurt. From a physical standpoint, like, you did not want to be seen in the training room. You know what I mean? And we literally just talked like, I would have looking back, I would have documented everything, but it was taboo to say like, man, I'm in here, I'm physically hurt, and that bled over to the emotional side of things as well, right? And
Mm-hmm.
look, I'm going through some things, I'm dealing with something, I'm hurting, but I ain't gonna talk about it. I'm gonna tough it out. I'm gonna just keep pushing through, right? Because that's what I'm trained to do, and that's what I've always been doing,
Mm-hmm.
and masking it and covering it up, man. So I could attest to that 1,000%, and that's a really interesting parallel, on the approach from a physical standpoint of just like sucking it up, getting back out there, not really communicating exactly what's going on, even though you know what's going on with your body.
Right.
Still lack of trust out there.
Mm-hmm.
That definitely bled over into the emotional realm for me. And my way of dealing with it was just like, man, all right, I'm tough. I'm gonna just work through it, and it'll eventually resolve itself and go away.
Yeah, I never complained about training room stuff, and the same thing in life. I don't complain to people about anything.
Nope.
I've noticed, nothing. And I get this kind of from my pops, man. I love my pops for this, but he never told me this, but I watched his life, and this is something I took from him. If you're able to complain, then you can't.
Mm.
Because see, so watching him, you got to understand, he was a disabled veteran, double leg amputee, stroke, dysfunction, like a lot of things in his extremities was like just less and less and less and less and less. And I used to watch him. He never complained through all surgeries, injuries, not being able to walk and losing like his mind and everything. He never complained. I was like, yo, what I took from that, if you're able to complain, then you probably shouldn't. Which complaining is different from expressing how you feel, right? Like, I think that is different. Then so it made me dive into, was Rashad, what is complaining then? Complaining is when you know how to deal with the situation, but you won't put yourself in a position to deal with it. So that's complaining. But expressing how you feel means potentially, I just need some help and assistance. I will do the work. Complaining is when you're not willing to work.
Mm.
And so then that helped me separate, okay, Rashad, am I complaining? Meaning I know the answers, but I'm not willing to put myself in a position to inquire them. Or am I expressing how I feel because I actually need some help?
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Really helped me out a lot.
Yeah. The key takeaway there for me was do the work. 100%. You have to not only put yourself in a position to do the work, you have to be willing to do the work. And it's not like a one-shot deal, if you will, or like a time period type thing. The work, you always, and this is like a sports term, you have to keep honing your craft. And so you have to keep honing your physical body and also your mind, because if you don't, then it will atrophy just like your physical body. So I want to take some time now. I think we got everybody warmed up. I think we're warmed up. But I want to bring in a good friend of mine who is a big supporter of us and content collaborator on our Alchemy platform, Bashea Williams. And I was really interested in connecting with Bashea initially, just because it's so hard for Black men to find other Black men in the mental health space to seek counsel from. You know, I look for and work with mental health clinicians on a daily basis, and finding a Black male in this space is like finding a needle in a haystack. It's really, really difficult to find good brothers out there that are doing good work. And I think that's a really big problem, an issue as it relates to Black men in therapy, really finding that culturally competent therapist, that brother that you can relate to. The power of representation is very real. And you know, that's one of the raison d'etres behind Alchemy, is that we need to increase representation and availability for culturally competent therapists. So I'm going to bring in Bashea Williams into the conversation, and we'll keep rocking and rolling.
Awesome. Awesome. Look forward to it. Hey, in the comments, we definitely appreciate y'all tuning in. Anybody can hear us, for sure.
All right.
Hey,
cool.
what's going on, gentlemen?
Here we go.
There you go. What's up, my brother?
How y'all doing?
I'm good. Happy Friday, brother.
Yes, happy Friday. Happy Friday.
Yeah, it's good.
Great conversation.
Yeah, we're I think we're warmed up, man. We brought you in to bring us home.
Yeah, you guys said a lot of good things. I was listening, taking notes while you guys were talking. And I think a lot of the stigma is we're not given the language, or we're not given the ability or the freedom to talk about those things. Like when you mentioned, Rashad, you talked about never complain, right? But so we're holding all this energy in, and we're holding it up here, and our headspace is full. And so we're not allowed to share what we're dealing with. And then we go around carrying all this. That creates anxiety, that contributes to depression, adjustment disorder, all these different things, when we literally just need to be okay to have a conversation about what we're feeling. Like that's all it is. It's just giving the permission to talk about what's bothering me. And then we can work on a solution together, as opposed to me just trying to figure it out all by myself.
Do you think that permission needs to come internally, or we need an external validation? Like, because a lot of times I find myself I'm the reason I'm holding myself back. So sometimes I need to give myself permission. In your mind's eye, is it more internal or is it external?
So I think it's both. So when we're young, you know, we're told to hold things in, to suck it up. Then we start to listen to that message, and then we start to believe that message, and we start to operate out of that message. And so by the time we hit 30, 40, it was like, you know what, this doesn't feel good, but we have to unlearn and unpack and get out of this routine of holding it in. So we do need to challenge that and say, you know what, I do need to share this because it doesn't feel good. So
yeah,
it's both.
I think it's a level of losing peer respect and clout and, you know, so forth and so on. Because if a guy complains about something that seems sensitive, he may lose some toughness points. And so you don't want to lose. And so then you get older and realize that's silly. Right. And so I try to, and maybe y'all can help me out on how to relate this to younger kids, or, you know, even men now. We're as we mature, we realize these things, right? Like, how do you get a kid to the point where peer pressure of silence isn't promoted? Like, yeah, there's peer pressure to be silenced on certain topics. Like, how do you create peer pressure to, hey man, talk to me. Like, what's up? I got your back. Like, it's not corny to, you know, love on somebody, right? Like, but then there's a balance somewhere that I'm really trying to teach my nephews and younger kids.
Yeah, but if you look at dynamics of circles and cliques and whatever that is, there's always a leader who steps out and does something different. So can you empower your nephews to be that leader that steps out and does something different? And anybody that doesn't get along or go with them, then they're not part of their crew. Like, for me to be able to express myself or what's bothering me doesn't take away my toughness, doesn't take away my ability to do stuff on the court or the field or whatever. That's just me being in touch with who I am. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
establishing my identity because ages 12 through 18, that's what we're doing. We're establishing who we are. And you guys talked about that transition. If your identity is football, your identity is basketball, your identity is the bully or whatever it is, then you struggle with that and you carry that on throughout a huge part of your lifespan. So if I just say I'm going to step out of the normalcy of what everybody expects me to be, then I'm going to be all right. I'll figure it out. Like I'm not giving anybody the power over the response to my vulnerability, right? My
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability is my vulnerability. That's it. And it doesn't make me softer
Yeah.
or
Right.
soft.
Yeah. Yeah. All great points. I think the language and the toolkit and around Rashard's commentary, like that peer pressure. I've always kind of thought about the concept of like, good type thing. That's the thing that we ask all our boys, like, yo, man, good. I'm not good. I'm really not good. I think we get to a space where, and that's for like specific certain type of relationships. You need just a few people that you could go to with that. But then that is like when somebody asks you that, you can just kind of let your hair down and say like, nah, this is what I'm going through. Just downloading and decompressing with someone. I found that to be really helpful and really powerful. And as men, I think we have to work to get to that space. Because that I can speak for myself that just it's not natural. Call it nature or nurture, somewhere in between. But again, it goes back to that consistent theme of like putting in the work as it relates to your mental health and well-being.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about transition. That's been a theme, and that comes up a lot for professional athletes. But say from a professional or clinical professional standpoint, like what would be some strategies that you would recommend for folks who are going through transition, coming out of a transition, feeling like they're heading into a transition, etc.
I think just normalizing the fact that we're always in transition, right? Because we're always shifting and moving into another level of our life, right? So if I know that, then I can be present in the moment. And the biggest thing that we do that kind of trips us up, kind of sets us back, is that we can't stay in the moment. We're constantly thinking that we got to move to the next thing faster than the next thing. Like we're constantly telling ourselves we got to go, go, go. And we can stop and slow down and be present with ourselves and understanding we have evidence of success in transition previously.
Mm-hmm.
So I can look back and say, okay, there's some evidence of success in any other transition. So I know I can do this again.
Yeah.
We got to lean into our network. Like, again, we don't have to do this alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like you build a strong community, a strong support. You guys play sports, you got your teammates. You've already have the ability again to rely on a team, to be a leader on a team. So allow yourself to get that same space and allow yourself to allow other people to come in and help you.
Yeah.
So there's different things you can do. And then you got to build almost like a daily routine of self-care. Like really pay attention to the things that help you. Like
Yeah.
slow down, a sleep routine, a daily routine, exercise, eating, hydrate, all those different things that we need to do. And also I tell a lot of my clients, we got to do, I call them daily dumps, brain dumps. At the end of the day, like I need to pause before I go into sleep or before I go and watch TV or whatever it is. And I need to dump my day, literally process my day and leave it on paper.
So like journaling?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. The other thing too is like really pace yourself, then allow yourself to understand that you will make mistakes. It's a transition and then you'll be all right. Like it's a constant thing. Like I'm gonna be all right. I'm okay at this moment. And not again, put that pressure on you to be perfect.
Mm-hmm. See, and it's there it goes, man. There it goes. Where's like how to find that balance,
Mm-hmm.
boy. Like there's like one of the things that has when I take an inventory of my life and I just look at myself, right, and I'm just watching me. If I just look, one of the things that caused me to be in this position because I am more prone to challenge myself and chase perfection. But then, okay, but also what else balanced me not to go over the edge, right? Like there's balance everywhere. And I think that's one of the hardest things for me to teach without going to the extreme because a lot of times you encourage people with the extremes. We give examples with the extremes. That's why we say, oh, look, you could be like LeBron James or you could be like Tom Brady. That's an extreme, bro.
Right. Right.
What are we doing? And so
Right.
a lot of times I'm like, I have to ask myself, how can I slowly integrate these, what I have found to show results? How can I integrate that into people's life without making them go completely vegan today for the rest of my life? And that's all I'm ever doing. It's like, yo,
Right.
let's slow this thing down and integrate vegetables first. Let's see if you even got the bloodline to even go vegan. You know, it's a lot. It's a lot. And so how to test these and like you said, and what does that even look like? And maybe is there another term that I could use alongside of self-care? Because maybe self-care isn't the right sell for some people. Like you go into a store, y'all know how it is. If you go to a store and they say half off, and then you go into another store and they say 50% off, that's the same thing, but a different term because it's selling to a different audience. And so how do I get young men that look similar to me? What do I need to sell? How is that product sold where we can get people to dive into the conversation and show where they fit inside the story? Because this is all a big story of life that we're trying to, you know, live in. I struggle there finding that balance.
Yeah, one of the things that I like to do is I like to identify what self-care is and normalizing that we're always practicing self-care, some sort of self-care.
Gotcha.
And, you know, just asking somebody, what do you like to do? Like when you feel stressed, when you feel bothered, when you feel like, what is your escape? Like the young kids like the video games, right? Because you're allowed to escape from whatever that is. Some people like to go play sports. That's your escape. So let's normalize even taking a shower. How does a shower feel? Like you feel good when you're in the shower. Like you put on your cologne, your spray, or whatever it is. That's parts of self-care. So just normalizing those simple things, but when you're doing them, paying attention to them and telling yourself, I'm taking care of me right now. Like all the responsibility of the world are on pause and I'm taking care of me. So we have those conversations and on my page, and I even did something, I did a 31-day self-care challenge for men. And so many men read it and it was like, I already do that. Exactly. So what do you do to take care of yourself? That's self-care.
Got you.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the fact that you can point it out makes a huge difference, man. That to identify what we're doing. Because I listen, when I go get a fresh haircut, boy, I feel good. Hey, I'm gonna go out my way to go to the grocery store. I want somebody to see me.
Hey, that's the number one form of self-care. My wife would tell you, I was hot about a month ago because I missed my haircut. And I get my haircut every 2 weeks. And I went a whole month without a haircut. I'm like, man, like this is a form of self-care. I was beaming at her, so I got my haircut again. It's really that important. It's like one of those things, man, like if you know there's no better feeling than walking out of that barber's chair fresh, ready for whatever.
Yeah. And even stuff like even saying no is a form of self-care.
Yeah.
Like, because we always feel like we got to show up for everybody else. But the moment we say no, we got to tap into that and say, you know what? I'm choosing me at this particular moment. Like my Monday is my self-care Monday. Right. Nobody has access to me. My son knows he's in the room. My wife is in there. I stay in the bed until like 12. And I'm just chilling, watching TV. I get to do whatever I need to do on Mondays. That's my self-care day. If I want to get up and go test drive a car, whatever that is, that's what I do on my Monday. Yeah. And my phone is on Do Not Disturb all day. So you get my answer machine, and that's my boundary.
How did you get to that place, particularly with people that you live with that are dependent on you on a daily basis? I know setting boundaries, particularly with family members, can be really difficult. Do you have any like tips or tools or tactics that you could share with the folks as it relates to setting boundaries?
Yeah, I think having more of the discussion outside of chaos, like outside of a hard moment, you can talk about the things that you need, right? Because I can say what I need and then you can tell me what you need and then we can come up with a compromise. Mm-hmm. So I know that everybody knows that I'm pouring into them and everybody knows if I don't get my Monday, I show up differently Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm more irritated because I'm seeing clients all week and I'm managing my clinicians and I'm doing so much. So I need to find a way to restore myself so I can show up for other people.
Yeah.
And so if I can have that conversation, and then I'm teaching them boundaries as well, and then we're defining our relationship. I'm not neglecting them by taking care of myself. I'm just taking care of myself, and they have their own abilities to do whatever they need to do. So now everybody else has their own self-care routine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest there was like that, the communication point. So not having that conversation in chaos, letting cooler heads prevail and just saying like, look, this is what I need during this time. The other part of that is like, when you show up as your best self, then other people get the best version of yourself. And that's really important. Rashad, any tips around boundaries for you? Any experiences that you've had with that?
I would say I like what you were saying about taking a day and kind of turning off the phones. And this is my day. Focus on me. I job of that because I do carry the weight of a lot of people, and I'm kind of an open 24/7 kind of guy for folks to pull at my family and stuff. So I'm a words of affirmation guy. Like, I understand that about me. I really do.
Yeah.
And so it's to the point where I understand that so much about me that I will ask somebody that that's close to me, why do you appreciate me? Just so I can hear it. Because I need to hear it. And because I know I need to hear it, I don't mind asking for it. Like, I ain't one of them dudes walking around, frustrated because I'm going to ask you, hey, man, tell me you love me. Just tell it. It ain't even got to be real. But just the fact that I heard it. Like, so I should know what it is that you need and find a non-invasive way to ask for it, or be fun, be light, be playful. But if it's something real to you and you need that, it's okay to ask for it. And I need words after.
Yeah. I'm the same way. And one of the things I had to do when I was really struggling with anxiety, with confidence and stuff like that during the transition, what I did was I put the words that I needed on my mirror. So every time I get up brushing my teeth, I'm doing whatever, I see those words being by me, in front of me, and I'm literally ingesting those words. So that helps with my confidence. That helps where I can affirm myself when I can't get to anyone else. And it's always good to hear from other people. But it's also good to hear from yourself to really know that whenever I go and step into the room, that I'm already confident. Anything else that anybody else says is a bonus, because I definitely don't want anybody to take that away from me. Because words of affirmation, if you show up with any anxiety, you show up with any fear, people can affirm that fear and anxiety by saying you look anxious or you look scared. And then you're identifying with that. And then now you're struggling. So I think it's dope to really ask those questions, because that's very bold. Like, what do I mean to you? How beneficial am I? Because we do need that, and there's nothing wrong with asking for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 1000%. You got to ask. Closed mouths don't get fed, and you gotta definitely be an advocate for yourself. Even though at times it can be difficult, really advocating for yourself is really important. Want to touch on one major topic, and I would be remiss if we did not talk about it, but the cultural competency piece as it relates to mental health. Not many people know that less than 4% of licensed professionals are Black or of color. And there's a huge deficit, and quite frankly, this is not, and that's one of the reasons behind me saying it's just a lack of culturally competent mental health providers. Professionals, particularly for the year that we went through in 2020, there was such a huge need for it. And so I want to talk a little bit about the importance of cultural competency as it relates to mental health care. There was a comment that came maybe about 20 minutes ago where he was like, I'm a white male and I would love to see a Black therapist. I think that's really important. So I just want to hear from a professional, like, how do we define cultural competency?
It was a little choppy, but I think I got what you were saying in regards to cultural competency. In my practice, I see 80% is African American. I do have some white clients, and part of the cultural competency that I possess is I grew up in a lot of different areas where a lot of my clients have experienced. I've experienced a lot of different things that they've experienced. So the general knowledge and general connection, and just to even look like each other, creates takes away a barrier, right? And then we normalize, we have the same language, right? And sometimes we speak to each other without speaking. Facial expressions, understanding, there's a level of empathy. And like, I'm not going to tell anybody who's experiencing something that that's not true. I'm not going to challenge their emotions. I'm going to ask them to work them out and explain that to me so I can understand. But there's a just general sense of we can just relate, right? And I think some people, even when I went through grad school, there were some things that I challenged in the books that didn't make sense. It just didn't relate to me. And so I was the only African American in my whole grad school. And I had a lot of challenges. I challenged a lot of my professors in saying that's just not how our culture operates. That's just not our experience. That won't work for us. And they were willing to learn. And I think that's what cultural competency is. It's not always feeling like you have the answer. And sometimes the client is, because I always empower the client to say, you're the expert, like I'm learning you. So cultural competency is really understanding what that person is talking about and empathy, and really giving them a chance to use their voice. Like I'm not going to take their voice away. So, and sometimes you got to do some research. You got to do your own research before you come into a session. Like if someone came into the session that I'm not familiar with, I'm going to do my research. I'm not going to go with my preconceived notions, but I'm also going to be open as well to your experience. Because even it might be a Black man or Black woman, we have two different experiences, and I'm not going to tell them what their experience is not real.
In your work, I could imagine that you're giving some people, you're enabling their voice at times. I feel like for me, I've learned that the English language is large, and I'm very ignorant in comparison to some of the most intelligent people that know how to use it. Like there are some times when I can't find the words to express properly how I feel. And so that's why at times I quote other people, because it's like, that's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
I couldn't find the words to say it. Right. And so, we're constantly in this rut of explaining it with a few different sentences, because it's the best I can show for it. And so the more I get read in a particular field or study a particular field, I feel at peace just simply because I can express what I really feel with words now, not just in, and if I can't express it with words, if I can't play that game with you, maybe it comes out in anger and aggression and pushing and all kind of weird things. Everybody has different vices to express. And so if you can properly teach somebody how to use words, the dictionary, communicative language, body language, signals, all kind of things, you feel more empowered to communicate. And so, I appreciate your work, man, because I know a lot of people say communication is key and leave it at that, and not really understand communication is hard, because you have to be in tune to use the right words to explain what you feel, and that ain't easy. That's very difficult. So I want to say, man, I really appreciate your line of work.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, you're spot on with that. And a lot of times in the sessions, I give my clients the freedom to speak however they need to speak. Because some people say, well, I don't know what to say. And that's what happens outside. And that's why we're quiet. So no, let me help you figure that part out. Just allow yourself to speak freely. And then we can work that out together, because we don't always have the language. Like I don't always have the language. And I just had my therapy session yesterday with my therapist. And make sure you get a therapist that has a therapist. Otherwise, get another therapist, because we need it, right?
Yeah.
And it was just like, all right, let me help process what's going on. And we have to sit in silence for a second to kind of like get those thoughts through. Then that's appropriate. Like I want to know different languages, what they need. And I'm one of them therapists. I don't use a lot of clinical jargon, because I feel like you lose the connection in the relationship with the client. Also, you lose the connection and relationship with the followers. Like I don't use a lot of that stuff on my page, because one, I don't really understand the big words. I got it in school, but I wanted to break it down so I can be what I say, a normal person and have a normal conversation, and we can talk about what's really happening right now. So yeah, just identifying words and just being okay with the words that you're using.
Love it, man. How old are you?
42.
42. And you are you married or kids or?
Yeah, I'm married. I got married last August. So my
Hey,
wife, I had a 16-year-old boy that I brought into the marriage. She had actually she just turned 23 on Wednesday, a girl. So we're a blended family, a beautiful blended family. So yeah, it's been a great experience, man.
that's awesome, man. And with that, and Ryan, are you married with kids? Anything at the moment?
Yep, married, 2 daughters, 9 and 6.
Awesome, man. And so, I'm not married yet. I don't have kids yet. So those are just two hats that I don't have to wear, right? And so I wanted to ask you two, with wearing those hats and all the many hats that y'all wear, um, do you put on each hat the same way? Do you wear it all forward? Do you wear some sideways? Are they all fitted? Do they have a snapback? Like, are you always the same exact person, or have y'all learned how to treat people differently based upon the hat? Like being aware of who you are to people. Like being dad is different from being son to being a brother from like, and how do y'all like, do you have a center core that you treat that comes from how you treat everybody? Because I think that I meet a lot of people that are so busy doing so many things. They're trying to be a CEO of this, or trying to be an entrepreneur here, trying to be a good father here, trying to be a decent son here, trying to be an educator here, and so you see a lot of potential stress and taking away focus. So how do y'all kind of collaborate all that in with mental health and staying stable with so many different hats that are important?
You want to start? You want me to go first?
I could dive in.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically, man, I have like a core in like who Ryan Mundy is and how I interact with people. Like, I'm generally a low key guy, like easygoing. Hey, how you doing? Smile, like friendly, get to know you, that type of stuff. That's at like my core, right? But how I show up as Ryan Mundy, the husband, versus Ryan Mundy, the father, versus Ryan Mundy, the son, the brother, the buddy from college, the buddy from the NFL. Like I have different relationships with all these people. And so, I think a lot of times, the element of consistency and saying like, oh, you got to be the same person. I don't know if that's always applicable, but I know that I'm the same person when I'm in the presence of that type of company. So like me and my buddies in college, like we have a conversation and a dynamic that is much different than me and my cousins or me and whoever, right? And so I'm always consistent with my relationships and how like the version of Ryan Mundy that they get and how I show up in that situation. But it's all kind of rooted in just like my general belief system of like just being a cool dude, like hey, like I'm here to help you, I'm in your corner, etc. But the relationship that I have with different pods of people and how I show up, as CEO or as founder, like there's a lot of different ways that I have to show up. And that's okay, right? But as long as it's like rooted in like who I am as a person, I've always found that to be like my, I guess, grounding mechanism, if you will.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly said. And I like to take notes, so if you see me writing, I'm always writing stuff. But so essentially, like the sense of self, the consistency of self, right? So I'm me, just like Ryan said, I'm me regardless of where I'm at. But relationships are different. And so the core is the same. How I respond to certain things are different. Like you said, the CEO of me, of my company, I show up differently. I can't have those intimate relationships that I have with my homeboys or, with my wife or whoever that is. That relationship is different. And then it has the strong boundaries. I think that's the most important part. And then even my son, we have conversations. Like I'm not going to talk to him like I talk to my homeboy. Yes, we have a relationship. Yes, we're friends, but I'm his father. And so he has to learn from me certain things. we're giving him the space to allow him to have his voice. And the same thing for my wife. Like I'm not going to be rough with my wife like I am talking to my homeboy. So it's the management of relationships, but the core self is the same. Amongst everybody, they know who I am as a person, because it was too hard trying to be a different person for everybody. It's exhausting. And that's the problem that we do. We think we have to be different. Like the code switching, whatever that is, we have to feel like we have to be a different person every time I go to a different place, which is simply not true, and it's exhausting.
Yeah. And I try to show up as consistently like those core values, or like who I am. Like I show up generally as the same Ryan, but again, it's about like the relationships and the comms that I have with those different pods of people. So, like I wear hoodies to work. I'm the CEO, the boss guy who's like wearing casual stuff, and I wear this to work, and I'll wear it, hanging out somewhere, right? Like there's a lot of carryover there. But also like my conversation is a lot different. The dynamics are a lot different. Like my employees don't know me like my wife knows me, or my family knows me, right? So, making sure that it really just kind of comes down to the relationships and the art of conversation and nurturing and managing those as such.
It's awesome, man. Yeah, no, I definitely wanted to take that opportunity and ask, man. I'm a little selfish with that one. I'm always asking people that are married with kids, seeing how they do it before I get involved.
But that's, bringing it full circle, that's really important, and I admire Bashea's like self-care time on Mondays, right? Because he has to show up as the husband, as the father. I get all of that, as the CEO, the leader of the business, like, and in a lot of senses, you feel like you're just giving, showing up here, doing this, doing that. But when are you really ever taking time for yourself? And, we talked about that earlier. It's like, look, man, like when I need help, I need to actually like take that time and seek help and make sure that I'm recharging, because if I'm not recharging and caring for myself, then, all of these relationships are susceptible, family relationships, husband, father, business relationships. If I'm not taking care of myself, I'm making sure that I'm ready to rock and roll every day. Pretty much my whole ecosystem in life is susceptible there.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to prioritize that self-care. I say all that to say that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, this was awesome, fellas. We're coming up on the hour. I know you both are busy gentlemen, but I do thank you for taking the time today. This was a very powerful discussion. I apologize. I was getting blown up on text messages. Your audio is going in and out, but it seems to be working fine now. Yeah. But I'm thankful for that. Thankful for this platform. As we prepare to send off, just some parting words where people can keep up with you, learn more about your offering, what you're up to, what you'll be doing in the future would be helpful. And I'll kick it to Rashad to get us going here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Hopefully y'all learned something. I know I did today from these two fine gentlemen. Anything that I do, it can be found on any social media platform. I'm at Rashad Jennings, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, you name it. I'm at Rashad Jennings. My foundation is RashadJenningsFoundation.org, focused on reading, education, literacy, and health and fitness. And I'm working on some books, TV, commentating. I'm always having fun. I'm an everyday guy. I like to say I'm the student behind the mic quite often in a lot of things that I do. So I appreciate you allowing me to share what I've learned so far. And again, I appreciate this platform for the Mental Health Coalition allowing me to learn.
Yeah. How about you, Bashea?
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a dope conversation. I definitely appreciate it. On everything, you can find me at Bashea Williams on Instagram, Facebook. My website is BasheaWilliams.com. I speak all over on mental health. I speak in corporations and do different things. I have a book, Dear Future Wife, A Man's Guide and a Woman's Reference to Healthy Relationships. It's literally a workbook for men, because I know a lot of times we give a lot of information for women on what they need to do, but I think this is a space for us men to really deal with some of the things we need to deal with. You can find me at Alchemy. That's my home right there, Alchemy Health. So yeah, that's pretty much it, what we have going on. So you can, if you see me on Instagram, you'll see everything that I'm doing on there. Awesome.
And bringing it home again, I am Ryan Mundy. Thank you so much for everybody for tuning in. You can keep up with me personally on all social platforms at Ryan G. Mundy. And again, I am founder and CEO of Alchemy Health, and our mission at Alchemy is to become the universal healthcare provider for the Black community, and we are rooting that mission in mental health. We are preparing to launch our platform, which features guided meditations, on-demand therapy modules, live group therapy sessions that are hosted on Instagram Live by Bashea, who's on every Monday at 8 p.m. And our platform is Alchemy Health on all social channels, and that's ALKEME Health. And then our website is www.alchemyhealth.com. And again, we're preparing to launch in a few short weeks. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I wish you all a great and safe weekend. And I'll leave you with this. A healthy life starts with a healthy mind. So take care, everyone.
All right, y'all.
Appreciate it.
See y'all.